elected, can it still mean that we are observing this through a glass wall, or does it mean that we are essentially on the other side of this glass wall with this elected person? If so, is there still time to switch sides by following our passion and going more neutral?
We have just answered this question.
When you made your statement in Sedona, I presume you knew that the outcome of the election would be the male winning. Knowing this, your taking responsibility comment makes sense, that we must take responsibility for this path that we've chosen. If we voted for the female, what does it mean to take responsibility here?
What it means is that at this point, as we have said, it doesn't matter who you voted for. Taking responsibility is taking responsibility to your reaction and response to the transmission that we delivered. That's what we mean by taking responsibility. And we are now discussing the idea of the actions necessary to take responsibility for your responses and reactions by coming together and having open discussions, clear discussions, by understanding each other, by listening to each other, by really talking with each other. This is what's important now, and would be a true expression of your willingness to take responsibility for the initial reactions and responses that you had to our comments in our transmission. This is now what we're watching. This is now what we're observing. This is what's important to move forward, no matter who you voted for, no matter what your election is. As we said, this is a play playing out, and what's going on behind the scenes is actually more about what's really going on your planet than it is in terms of the play act that happens to be your elections. For that is a screen.
Are you providing transmissions to parallel realities where the US elected the female in this recent election? Do you personally find certain timelines more exciting than others? Compared to timelines where the female may have won this election, what positive aspects or opportunities do you see within the current timeline, both on a collective and individual basis?
I believe you are beginning to see how the way in which a lot of these questions are framed are now becoming irrelevant based on what we have already said.
Okay. Is World War III coming?
We talked about the idea of the imbalanced energy that is typically referred to as masculinity might lead in that direction. It doesn't mean it will happen. It will lead in that direction. Remember, the idea of what you might refer to as World War III does not necessarily have to be and never will be a nuclear exchange. So the idea is that it may lead by an imbalance of energies that are typically referred to as masculine style energies of aggressiveness, will lead closer and closer to the idea of what you will experience or call World War III. Again, it doesn't mean it will actually happen if you are willing to understand what we are saying to you in this transmission today.
Okay.
We are now speaking on behalf of the Interstellar Alliance Council. And we are giving you the result of the discussions that are ongoing in this council. So we would strongly encourage you to pay attention to the way in which information is being given to you, to listen to the wording, for it is precise. We said things would lead in certain directions, not that it was inevitable. But nevertheless, by allowing yourselves to begin true communication, you can pull yourselves back to the center, to be with one another, and to empower yourselves in a multitude of ways that will allow you to dispel the veil that you think is your political reality, which is nothing but a smokescreen. for what is really going on behind the scenes, so that you can truly open your eyes and see your world for what it is and how you can truly decide together to change it in ways that will allow you to join the galactic community in a positive way.
I'm really excited about open contact, but I'm also starting to feel uneasy. I feel like it's almost like being excited about the second coming of Jesus, and I never want to be the one to be tied to dogma or feel like I am a follower, even if I'm a follower of Bashar. I also don't want to be accused of being in some kind of cult. Can you help me with these feelings of uneasiness?
Again, it's all about self-empowerment, taking responsibility for yourself, being responsible to others to be yourself. The idea, as we have expressed many times, of what you call the second coming is the awakening of the Christ consciousness within each and every heart of every person. It is not about dogma. It is about claiming your own spiritual relationship to all that is, to Source. It is about being the unique individual that you are and being of service to others by being who you are.
Our political system is struggling to function as intended by our founding fathers. With corruption in politics and highly qualified candidates unable to compete against dishonest ones, what steps can we take to reform our government and improve its functionality? What principles or strategies should guide us how our country is governed?
We have told you what the next step is.
Would you like to share your impressions on the congressional hearing on UFO UAPs that took place on November 13th?
Any discussion of this is a step toward open contact.
Wonderful. Will the UAP hearings before the U.S. Congress be the vehicle where Pleiadians are introduced to the world as part of disclosure?
Possibly. This has not yet been fully decided.
In the light of the election cycle, we can truly see what diverging train tracks look like from the political left and right, based on your definitions of positive and integration and negative and separation. Would choosing either political side and shunning the other be fundamentally negative? Shouldn't we be integrating both sets of viewpoints in order to remain positive?
As we have just said, yes, it's time to come together. It's time to look at the train tracks in this way. There is a track, meaning one rail. There is another track, one rail. There is a third track in the center. Allow yourself to view all three of these tracks, all three of the rails. Allow yourself to be on the train that may be using these two rails, and you can be on the train that may be using these two rails, but understanding that there is a common rail in the center. Allow yourselves now to come back to the glass wall, as we have just encouraged you to do. Now is the time for this. All of the preparation, all of the buildup, all of the positive, all of the negative. Again, a transmission from the oracle at the end of these questions will highlight this idea in a way that will allow you to fathom in your own way, at your own time, the interpretations and meanings that will allow you to move forward. We will not comment on the interpretation. We will not comment or respond if you ask us, did we get the right interpretation? There is no right interpretation in the ultimate sense. You will each decide for yourselves, and you will each decide together what the interpretation actually means. But it is being delivered because it is time for it to be delivered, and it is something that will create a little bit of mystery in you to allow you and encourage you to explore that mystery together, to understand in fullness and in the fullness of time toward contact what it actually means for you.
Bashar, as a first contact specialist, will you be the one making physical open contact with Earth when it's time for the Sasani to do so? And since you have connections to Earth, how do you feel about this, and what does this mean for you personally?
I will be among the first contact specialists from my civilization, yes. Obviously, this is representative of my passion, or I wouldn't be doing it. So that's what it means for me personally. I am very passionate about interacting with humans on Earth because I understand and I can see, I can observe the incredible potential, the incredible power you have to transform your world into heaven on earth. But it requires that you come together to do so.
We are very excited to meet you.
As are we to meet all of you. But the yous that we will be meeting will not be the yous that you are today. So become the yous that are the yous who will meet the us's.
I've been following your steps of the social experiment for open contact, but I struggle with fear when it comes to gathering groups for CE5. I'm fine practicing alone, but fear of being labeled crazy in my conservative community holds me back from involving others. How can I overcome this fear and take action without missing out?
Do you understand that the leader of the congressional UAP investigation is a conservative? Therefore, both sides are interested in the idea of bringing out information that has to do with disclosure and open contact. Learn what is going on and who the players are, and that may assuage your fears by understanding that you can rely on simple information to describe what is going on, and that many different people from many walks of life and many belief systems are coming together with regard to the idea of disclosure and the discussions of UFOs and UAPs. And this is what we're talking about. It is one of the areas in which all beliefs can come together. The very concept of open contact can be connective and uniting, no matter what your personal, philosophical, or political, or economic, or social beliefs may be. It can drive you to explore what's at the core of all of them in a way that you can begin through deep communication with one another, looking past the surface representations that are not as important as the deep internal desires on a very simple level for what every human truly needs in life: to feel that they are worthy, that they are loved, that they are heard, that they belong. So let open contact and anything that has to do with it bring you together. Fear not. You are not alone in that endeavor.
If the Pleiadians are going to be the first ones to land, why don't we hear much about them or from them?
There is actually a lot of information about them if you will pay attention to the idea of things like UFO sightings. You will find that most of the sightings, the vast majority at this time, are actually Pleiadian ships. They're getting you used to their presence in a variety of ways. So, even though your news programs may not carry awareness of who these ships belong to, I'm telling you now, most of them are Pleiadian ships.
Are the ships on the videos that were published, are those the Pleiadian ships?
Some of them.
Can you describe what they look like?
There are a variety of types. Some of them, like our ships, are triangular. Some of them are saucer shaped. Some of them are cylindrical. It just depends upon the ship's function.
What technology was given to us by ETs in the past 50 years? And what will be the first 2 or 3 technologies that they will share, or you will share with us when open contact occurs?
As we have said, holographic recordings of your entire history, going back thousands upon thousands of years, certain kinds of genetic, vibrational medical understandings, what you may term free energy devices, will also be part of some of the technologies that we will aid and assist you with, among other things.
Meaning that I have my own production house creating my own movie. But what about other people who also play a part in my movie? Do I have a say as to how they react, behave, or interact with me? Or all these are still their own decisions at the soul level? Meaning that their world and my world actually share the same storyline or separate. For example, can a man actually create a reality in which his ex-wife actually moves back and falls in love with him all over again? While his ex-wife in her world, in her movie, she has actually moved on and married someone else. How separate or overlapped are these different worlds?
It can happen that way, although again, it depends upon how it serves a purpose in that life path to experience those things. The idea is that you make agreements with others, agree to different kinds of storylines, as you say, but you still experience your version of those stories in your reality. By agreement, others will seem to share the same reality, even though they are in their own reality, perceiving their versions of you as you are perceiving your versions of them. So you are creating your versions of them, and it will be based on your belief systems about what you need from them, which can be either slightly or very different from what they may perceive in their reality of their version of you. It just depends on how closely aligned the different versions have agreed to be in terms of what you experience with each other in creating those representations of each other in your own realities. But again, sometimes it can diverge quite readily, quite far, and sometimes it will stay very closely aligned, depending upon the agreement you have made and what purpose it serves to either remain aligned or misaligned. Good day, good day.
Ha'ata Bashar.
Ha'atu.
Ha'atu. Wow. Um, hmm. I feel great. It's a great day.
All right.
I feel like we have had a conversation before, maybe telepathically. I was standing out in my yard and I had just listened to some of your stuff, and yeah, I could feel something. I don't know if it was that me making it up in my head with my
It is your higher mind, and also in combination with us, because we have many conversations with people on the non-physical realm before we have them in the physical realm. But the idea is that it always involves your higher mind to gain practice for you in understanding that your higher mind can answer all the things we have been answering for all of you for all this time as well.
cool. I do want to ask some specific questions. One, I'll just start off with one of them is about um, I'm a farmer. I work with the land, and I heard you talk about the Lyrians, and I just want to, I guess, talk more about like water, plants, animals, the energy of those things, and my relationship with them, and how I can evolve those. Like I know water bending is a thing. There's a lot of things that I've seen in movies like superheroes can do, and I just get chills when I see those things. So I feel like they're possible. Um, and
All
I
of
just
them
want to
happen
talk
in
about that.
spirit. All of them can happen in spirit. Some of them can be brought into the physical realm if you allow yourself to see the physical realm as an extension of spirit more strongly. Not all of them are relevant for your particular life path, but certainly by allowing yourself to understand yourself as an extension and an expression of nature, as nature, rather than being in nature, then you can blend more fully with the idea of the consciousness of nature in all its forms, plant and animal, and elements, and allow yourself more efficacy with the communication with those particular forms of consciousness as well. Being a farmer, in a sense, you have a head start on this because you understand how to work with the land. Allowing yourself to understand everything that's physical as being an extension and an expression of spirit can also help you accelerate your ability to receive and send communications to all the elements we have mentioned.
Cool. And does that include the Sasquatch or other um
All things in
physical?
nature. All things in nature.
So are the Sasquatch aware of me?
They can be. They are aware of many humans individually, especially those that work the land. So peripherally, they can be aware of you, though it may not be extensive.
Hmm. What is a way to sort of invite them, I guess, or
Go into the forests where it has been said they inhabit, where it has been said they visit, and allow yourself to begin the cryptic meditations that Willa has delivered to all of you in the past. Sitting with your back to a tree, near a source of water, listening to the water, and extending your mind deep underground into the root system and the mycelial network of the tree, and beginning to blend with the communication between the trees in that way, can also connect you to many forms of nature, including the elementals and including the idea of Sasquatch. Begin those kinds of meditations on the cryptic journey, and it can improve your ability to perceive and receive communication from many different kinds of beings that exist that many people on your planet don't even know about.
cool. And teleportation, is that possible with my physical body, or do I need some sort of ship?
No, you do not need a ship. You have to understand that you're already teleporting all the time. That's how you move. You jump from moment to moment. You teleport from moment to moment. It's just that you do it so smoothly and so quickly, you don't even know you're doing it. So getting a deeper understanding of the fact that you're already doing it, because every moment you shift to a different reality, literally a different universe, you are teleporting constantly. Even to have the experience of a movement like this requires teleportation through billions of different parallel universes. So if you understand more deeply that you're already teleporting, you can increase your vibration to be able to perceive the rate at which you are already teleporting to create the sensation of movement, which is an illusion. And therefore, by increasing your frequency, you can match the frequency more readily of how you are shifting from reality to reality and perceive that you are always teleporting. And in doing that, you can learn to teleport in different ways that are more perceivable by those around you. But again, it depends on whether this is relevant for your life path.
Cool. And I've heard you say before that when the earth changes, it's not the earth changing, it's me shifting into different versions of earth.
As I just explained again.
Yeah. So what is my desire to regenerate the earth, to regenerate the land, if it's me shifting into something different?
The desire is to be a living example of the state of being and the actions that go along with that state of being that allow others to see in you how they can also choose to shift to versions of Earth that are more reflective of what they prefer.
Cool. And one of my last questions here, I want to get a little bit more specific about my personal myself. Um, I know that I also listen to Abraham Hicks, so I know that in my vortex, there's this all around me is this pure, massive well-being, and I know that there are some thoughts that may be foreign beliefs that resist me allowing who I am to flow, and those thoughts are what I want to get at so that I can, I guess,
All right.
identify them.
Well, the easiest way to do that is ask yourself how it serves you to hold on to them, because you don't hold on to anything that you don't believe serves you. So you have to look for the structure and the nature of what the belief is telling you and realize that you may have a belief that is causing you to be afraid to move forward because the belief is telling you that if you do let go, something worse will happen. So you have to find out what that belief is saying to you to see that it's nonsensical and not a fact. It's just a story.
And is that something that you're able to see in me? Or how do you
I
think
can
so?
only tell you how to allow yourself to discover it. Because again, this goes to the motivational mechanism. Listen carefully. You hold on to anything you believe serves you, even if it's a negative thing, because you believe the alternative would be worse. So you'll hold on to even something negative if you believe it's the safer alternative. So you have to find out what you're afraid might happen if you move forward in the direction you say you prefer, but find that you're not moving forward in that direction. It can only be because you have a belief that says moving forward in that direction would be worse than staying put, no matter how negative staying put actually would be. So you have to discover within yourself what you're afraid of might happen if you move forward.
Okay. And when I live in Hawaii, is there
Yes.
anything here, maybe around my location, that
What island are you on?
say that again?
What island are you on?
Maui.
All right. You understand that Haleakala is the heart chakra of the world, yes?
Yes.
The heart vortex. Allowing yourself to meditate in the understanding will open up your heart and open up communication to many different forms of elemental being.
Cool.
Does that serve you?
Yes. What about my last question is about you. Um do
Yes.
you have human friends? Do you ever hang out on Earth?
I have not
Do you
set
want to be
foot
friends?
upon your planet at this time. My ship is in your atmosphere, but I have not set foot upon your planet at this time. We consider all humans potentially to be our friends if they are willing to be so.
Well, I am, and it'd be cool to hang out. Um,
There may come a time when that is possible physically. For now, it is not yet the time.
okay. And my last question that comes up is about dragons.
Dragons
Um,
are a projection of a certain interdimensional form of consciousness that is interpreted in your reality as the form of a dragon. That's not how they look in their own reality, but it is an expression of ancient wisdom and great power that takes that form because that's the form that your physical reality best interprets those interdimensional forms of consciousness.
cool. Okay. So the
Thank you.
Mo'o,
You said that was your last question.
yes. Thank
Then
you.
we thank you for your interaction, our unconditional love to you, Aveo.
Lots of great questions from our viewers.
All right.
So the first one is, this person is asking, I believe you've mentioned that we will not be able to see the other train tracks somewhere around the year 2050. As there is a high probability of having a mass contact event between 2026 and 2027, how will the realities who do not experience contact perceive this event? Will they look back on this instance in a similar way we look back on the Roswell event, very much in denial?
It depends on the person. There is still an opportunity in the upcoming events to have a particular perspective of it, or no perspective at all, not even knowing that it's happening. There is still the possibility of a range of reactions to it because you are still seeing other people's choices. So for a while, different people will respond or react in different ways or not even be aware that it's happening. These things will start slowly, in phases, subtly, and not everyone on your planet may even be aware that it's occurring. But the different reactions from those that become aware of it may also exhibit a wide range from acceptance to disbelief to total non-acceptance. So again, there is still time for people to make choices about how they relate to the idea of open contact, and you will see a number of different reactions and responses to any particular UFO events or contact events for a few years to come.
Okay. This person says, I was wondering if the first major contact event will happen in dream form. I feel like more people would be open to the idea that since they are in a dream state. I'm aware that a lot of people are already making contact while dreaming and just don't remember it. But will we have a dream we remember which will unlock the door to making physical contact?
That is a high probability. It is common in first contact scenarios in many civilizations, including a high probability in yours, that the idea of widespread open contact will be experienced en masse in dreams before it occurs in physical reality.
very interesting. Will open contact happen on a large scale, visible to everyone, ensuring that no one is left out?
No, because again, there are those who may choose not to experience it. It will happen for those who are willing and open to experience such a thing. So again, the scale of it will happen in phases, will unfold in phases, and those who are open to the vibration will experience certain aspects of it, and this will change over time and broaden over time. But there will be those who are simply unwilling to experience such things, and we have to respect that. Therefore, vibrationally, they will simply not be capable of participating in the experiences that others may be open to experiencing.
And what will be the impact on those with religious beliefs when we establish open contact? Will they resist, or will you assist them in gaining a deeper understanding of Jesus and God?
We will assist where we can, where people are willing and open to receive assistance. Again, there will be a range of responses and reactions based on people's beliefs, be they positive and or negative. And again, this range of responses and reactions will still exist for quite some time as you process what is going on, as you work through things and determine for yourselves which track you ultimately prefer to be on.
And how are you feeling regarding the current UAP issues with the US government? Will we make progress soon for disclosure and contact?
You are making progress. The term soon is relative. But again, progress will be made in a number of different ways, not even necessarily so much by your government, although there will come a time when they understand that there really is no other choice but to reveal what they know, at least to a large degree. Because the movements that exist in the public domain will have advanced farther at a certain point than the government's abilities to interact and expose the information that they are aware of. So it will happen as a multifaceted approach from different corners of different public interests and different public activities, and come together at a certain timing, again through the window over the next decade or so.
And since it's the year one of Countdown to Contact, can you tell us more about the ET races that we could encounter, like Sasani, Pleiadian, Yael?
Again, it is most likely that those most similar to you, such as the Pleiadian civilizations, will be among the first that you will experience when open contact begins in earnest. Hybrid civilizations you will experience. Yael will likely be first because they will be the ones bringing the hybrid children to Earth eventually. My civilization, the Sasani, will not necessarily be first, but we will be in the mix further down the line, as well as other civilizations.
You've mentioned that a lot of ET races use similar ship types. We could, of course, reach out telepathically, but are there also physical differences in the ships we would notice, for example, between the triangular ships Pleiadian, Yael, Sasani use?
Well, again, yes, of course. You have witnessed many different types of ships that have many different kinds of functions. And different civilizations usually have types of ships that are relevant for them. A lot of civilizations will use the saucer-shaped ships. Many will use triangular-shaped ships. There is a kind of exchange that does exist between civilizations of some of the technologies. And so the use of different kinds of ships has become more mixed over time, with different civilizations acquiring the technologies of other civilizations. Many will use the cylindrical mothercraft or city ships because that is a convenient form, although some will also be spherical. But again, you can't always necessarily tell what civilization now because of the mixing of technologies. Though for the most part, Pleiadians will retain the idea of the classic saucer shape as you understand it, and our civilization and many hybrids will retain the general use of triangular ships because that is what is representative of our general technology.
And regarding extraterrestrial writing that some people see on the ship's exterior, when seeing the ships up close, what is that writing for?
The writing exists as a mark for the identification of ships in terms of their function. And it is, in a sense, read as a code vibrationally that is telepathically received by those who are sensitive to it to understand the function of the ship and its nature in terms of how it is telepathically connected to those piloting the ships. It is a kind of a signature vibration that contains a lot of information that others can download, so to speak, to understand the identity of the ship, the function of the ship, the function of the crew, the mission they are on. The writing can even change from time to time.
This person is curious about the energy and frequency where we will have first contact. This person says, I feel like I'm personally ready for that contact with ETs. Can you speak a little more on how we can embody, accelerate, and integrate for first contact?
Follow the formula as precisely as you can, as often as you can, to accelerate your vibration and make you more vibrationally compatible with the idea of contact.
And what are some suggestions for practicing how to change or alter our frequency to match those of entities like yourself? Will it be necessary in order to communicate during first contact?
Follow the formula.
Okay. This person is asking, is it possible for or probable for some of us to witness humanity becoming an honorary part of the Galactic Alliance? At 21 years old, I'm hopeful that the advancement in technology and healthcare might make it a reality within my lifetime.
Yes, as long as an individual doesn't choose to leave the planet during the time of open contact, those, especially of a younger age, are highly likely to experience the idea of open contact and a relatively large chunk of the full spectrum of contact over time.
Okay, for me, this first contact is not really a science event or a fruition of a science fiction dream. It is a cultural event, sociologic, like in the film Close Encounter of the Third Kind. Can you speak to this?
It is a sociological event, first and foremost, because it will alter your entire society. And you must alter your entire society on your own in order to make yourselves more compatible with the idea of contact. So the idea is it is less scientific, although there will be some technological elements to it, some technological exchange, knowledge exchange, so on and so forth, knowledge given, technological ideas given and shared. But it is first and foremost a sociological event, yes. Your entire society, those that are willing and open, those that are shifting in the direction of open contact, will be very different from your society of today. So the idea is that, yes, primarily it is sociological.
Okay, and the idea of humans organizing for contact. In what shapes or form would you suggest or inspire humans to organize themselves so they can globally have a more joyful and exciting open contact experience?
Some of that type of information will be being delivered in upcoming transmissions that have to do with what we are preparing you for now. As we said, this is Countdown to Contact Year 1, and we will begin to make certain suggestions for actions and behavioral changes in members of your society that have to do with what we are terming the Interstellar Alliance Sociological Experiment, and it will be delivered to you in a variety of steps over time in the upcoming year. So some of those suggestions will be forthcoming in the upcoming transmissions.
You've recommended putting up a picture of an alien in our windows. I've had little children, and in speaking to them about contact, I'm not sure they're ready to see an alien in the window. Do you have other suggestions for the little ones?
Depending upon their age, your children are already exposed to many representations of ETs and other kinds of beings in their programming on television and in movies. You can simply be creative and imaginative and choose representations that you deem to be, shall we say, cuter than average, so that children can relate to them, and use those instead.
Okay, and when contact is made, what reactions do you anticipate from us?
Again, there will be a range of responses and reactions depending upon belief systems, willingness to be open or not to the idea that you are not alone, willingness to be open to the idea of the kind of changes that would have to occur within you as individuals and within all of you as a society. So again, there will be a range of reactions and responses, and this is what we anticipate will occur at first.
And what qualities make us the best candidates for open contact?
Love, peace, creativity, imagination, and a willingness to be your true selves, a willingness to raise your vibration, a willingness to expand your consciousness, a willingness to connect to all that is in a variety of ways.
And could you tell me more about the sanctuaries you speak of? You mentioned people will be led to them by synchronicity. Could someone like myself prepare a space or the sanctuaries and set them aside? Can I be put on the list?
Again, people will be creating these sanctuaries through synchronistic opportunities, whether you yourself are involved in the creation of one or simply allowing synchronicity to lead you eventually to those that have been created by humans on your planet, it doesn't really matter. It is up to you to follow your passion as to whether or not you are actually finding a space and creating a sanctuary or being open to being attracted to a sanctuary once they
path as often as possible without expectation of outcome. Can I gently say that that's easier said than done? You've nearly perfected evolved states of being, but we as humans struggle with this for many reasons, mainly because of all the shoulds we face. We need to make money to pay bills, and many of us are in jobs that don't bring us joy or excitement. Daily chores aren't thrilling, and relationship struggles make it difficult to find passion. Are you suggesting we abandon societal norms and just do whatever excites us in the moment? I'm struggling with the formula and would like to know how to make it practical and effective. Your version feels a bit unrealistic given our societal constraints. I'd love to drop all the shoulds, but I'm fairly certain I'd be evicted by the end of the month.
As you humans say, there is a lot to unpack in that question because there are several different directions that question took that need to individually be addressed. First of all, no, we are not saying that you should drop everything. As we have often and always said, if you have a belief system that you cannot be supported by your passion, then you have to honor your beliefs and continue to do whatever it is you are doing that you believe is necessary to support you in life, even if it's not representative of your passion, until such time as you learn that your passion can support you by at least giving it an opportunity to prove that to you by acting on your passion as often as you possibly can. The second thing to unpack in that question is you are defining a lot of things that you could find more exciting ways to do, but defining them in ways that are not exciting for you. When you talk about the idea of, chores that have to be done in physical reality, you're coming in with the idea of a negative definition of those things when there may actually be ways to do many of those things that are truly necessary for physical survival in ways that are more vibrationally compatible with who you are and would actually be more fun, more enjoyable. So you have to use your creative imagination to figure out what the right way is for you to do the things that you believe are absolutely necessary for you to thrive in physical reality. Again, you have to rearrange some of your definitions and you have to expand your definition of what support you actually need in any given situation or any given moment, because it's not always the kind of support that you think you need, especially with regard to the idea that you are now referring to of being evicted by not paying your rent, which means in your mind, I need money. But again, even though that may generally be true in your society, there are still ways to mitigate some of that through communication with those to whom you may owe the money, because again, communication is one form of abundance, and sometimes just communicating with that person and letting them know what your circumstance and situation is. In other words, including them in the process that you may be going through that finds you coming up a little short may actually give them the opportunity to be generous and say, all right, I'll give you extra time, or you don't have to pay me right now, or all sorts of other things that they may come up with that you may not have considered possible, simply because you're not even willing to investigate that idea with your imagination and definitions being lower than they could be. So again, it's all about the circumstances, the situations, and what definitions you give them. We are not giving you anything that is actually unrealistic. These things do work. And the very fact that you open the question with the concept that it is unrealistic or that it is difficult for you says a lot about what you believe to be true. And that's fine if you want to hold on to those beliefs. All we are suggesting is that at least you give yourself an opportunity, when possible, in your schedule to make time to act on your passion to the point where over time, at whatever pace you're comfortable, you can allow your passion to prove to you that it can support you in many more ways, even better than what you're doing now. Don't necessarily give up the things you're doing if you don't believe that your passion can support you. Of course not. So the idea is for you to determine the pace that you're comfortable with, but give yourself an opportunity to let your passion prove to you that it can support you. At least go that far.
Okay. Now this person is asking, saying that they used to be happy and excited in life. I suddenly lost my excitement about everything. I lost the joy inside me without understanding why. And despite extensive personal development and trying various permission slips, they still feel joyless. I've lost the hope that this will change. I can't pinpoint any negative beliefs. I feel confident, worthy, and deserving of joy. I usually do what I feel like doing in the moment, but it doesn't feel like true excitement. What can I do to reconnect with authentic joy and excitement?
Well, you may not have negative beliefs to let go of, but you may have erroneous definitions to let go of, because it sounds like you have a certain expectation of how you're supposed to feel doing certain things that you choose to do. There is nothing that says that you have to be jumping up and down all the time with absolute giddiness to experience the idea of acting on your passion. Do not misunderstand the definition of those words. A state of absolute calm and absolute peace can also be representative of the idea of acting on your passion. So the first thing you might want to do is let go of the way you think, let go of the way you expect you're supposed to feel by choosing to do the things that you do choose to do, and just see if you're entering a new state, a new level of appreciation and gratitude and peace and calm and tranquility and contentment, which in and of themselves can be variations of the feeling that you could associate with acting on your passion. It doesn't mean you have to be walking down the street and laughing your head off or being on fire all the time.
Thank you. Okay, this one is, how do you handle waiting for an uncontrollable outcome, especially when others pressure you for answers or plans depend on it? How can you influence such a decision indirectly and stay positive when action isn't possible?
Well, first of all, we will have to assume that by your term uncontrollable outcome, that you may be talking about the idea of dropping insistence. That isn't clear in your question. Nevertheless, if you have developed a plan for something to theoretically occur, remember that all plans need to be adaptable. In other words, a plan should contain within it the ability to change the plan where necessary, to go with the flow, to go with the currents, to go with what happens, with what changes. So there needs to be some flexibility in there. And then you may find there are things you can act on if you're not too rigid about exactly the way you think the plan should proceed. So you might need a little bit more flexibility in what you call a plan that can give you more options of what outcomes could happen that could still serve the same purpose, that could still feel like you have arrived at the conclusion that is necessary for everyone concerned.
So maybe another example of that would be a situation where someone's child was taken hostage and they're just waiting and waiting for word or that the person would be released. So they would feel very much like it was an uncontrollable situation and they have tremendous emotional
If that's
investment.
what this person meant by uncontrollable.
I'm using that as an example.
You're using it as a different example.
Yes, it can be. Yes.
All right. So what are you asking?
How do people under those kinds of stressful situations where the outcome is of such great import and at the same time they don't have control, what is the state of being to choose to ride that kind of a uncontrollable outcome type thing?
Well, the first step would be to understand that even though it may seem you have no control over the situation, you always have control over your state of being, no matter what's going on. Remember, it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens. That's the main principle. So staying in a state of being, I'm not saying you have to be happy that someone has been abducted, but staying in a stable state, a potentially positive state, or at the very least a neutral state, can allow you to be able to observe synchronicities that will come to you that can lead to solutions that would be beneficial for all. So you have to learn the lessons involved. You have to understand that it may be something that's part of your life path to bring you a lesson you need to learn how to deal with these things in a way that can be more constructive than what you're afraid of. So again, of course, it will always depend upon the specific situation and the specific circumstances and conditions of that situation. Even though you have posed a general question, you have to look at the specifics of what's going on, who's involved, what it is they hope to gain, and all of those things in order to allow synchronicity to direct your attention to specifically what can be done and specifically what actions can be taken. But the only way you're going to receive that information is by, at the very least, remaining in a neutral state, if not fully a positive state, knowing that you will be given the information you need to move forward in a constructive and positive way to learn the lessons that need to be learned and allow for a more positive and constructive outcome for all concerned.
And also the idea of being under such a stressful situation and then perhaps the person falls out of the neutral state and goes into a negative state. It seems like it's a lot about, is it controlling your thoughts, or what thoughts will you allow, or can people navigate
All right.
things where
All right. Well, watch your language and how you define that, because people do not fall out of states. They choose to be in one state or another, even if that choice is unconscious. So again, they have to get in touch with their belief systems as to why they would choose to go into a state that they don't prefer about it. The idea is, again, if you understand how things work, you will know that if you truly desire some kind of a positive outcome, then staying in the neutral or positive state is going to give you the best opportunity to do that. Choosing to go into a fear-based state will not. Therefore, why would you choose it if the outcome is so dire? If the need for the outcome being positive is so important, why would you choose to go into a state that reduces the probability of having a positive outcome? All that takes is an understanding of how energy works and staying in the energy state that increases the probability of a positive outcome.
so it has to do with your conviction of how things work.
It
And you
has to do with an understanding, if you want to call it conviction, fine, but a true understanding and a clear understanding of how you create your reality, what your life path choices are all about in terms of how it helps you learn and grow. You have to understand how it works. And when you understand how it works, no other choice but to stay in a neutral or positive state will make sense.
right. So this person is asking, how do we tell the difference when we should help someone versus leaving them to be on their own journey?
If they are in your life and appear to need assistance, then you have attracted them through your own synchronicity to at least offer them the possibility of receiving assistance from you. You can always, again, suggest to them ways in which they may improve their situation, but after you have delivered that information, unless they give you any kind of signal that they want more assistance with that and more clarity or understanding of how to apply that in their lives, if they don't do that, then you have been given a signal that you have given them all the information they're willing to take, and you can move on. So the fact that they're in your life can be a signal that at least they may be willing to have you give them the option, and whether they use it today or tomorrow or a year or 10 years from now is not the point. The point is, if they're in your life and they appear to need help, then synchronicity has told you that there may be something you can do to at least give them information that they will be able to use at some point in their life. So at least make the attempt up to the point where it seems that they no longer wish your assistance. They'll let you know, either through their body language or their language. They'll let you know that's enough. They'll go away. They'll tell you to go away. They'll tell you to stop trying to help them. Something will let you know that you have given them everything they can handle, everything they can absorb. But at the very least, attempt to offer them something you believe in your heart of hearts may actually benefit them. That's the best you can do anyway.
Okay, and this individual is saying that they've lived a very difficult and unsafe life for so long that even though they understand your teachings, they struggle to implement them. How can they truly believe that they are safe and that everything will be okay? They can't seem to
By
let go.
understanding the concepts. They don't understand them. They may have a mental comprehension of the concepts that we're delivering, but clearly they don't understand them in the degree that they need to again realize how things actually work, because they are still choosing to struggle, still choosing to experience difficulty. So it must benefit them in their mind, in their belief system, somehow to continue to do so. Maybe they don't believe they can learn the lessons they need to learn any other way. They have to examine their belief systems and find out what benefit they're getting about continuing to choose to struggle through their lessons. They can always learn to process those challenges in ways that they can still learn the lessons in more positive, creative, and constructive ways. So they don't really understand the concepts, at least not clearly enough that they're willing to choose other ways and use their creative imagination to find the path that works for them, that is not so difficult and not so stressful. They must be getting something out of what they're experiencing as difficulty and stress.
Yes, I mean, you've talked about negative beliefs, and it sounds like some of the questions that we're getting are about people feeling like they can't control the negative beliefs that they're hearing in their head and they're buying into them. Is there anything you could suggest regarding that?
Yes, but you see, that's one of the beliefs itself. I can't control this. I can't help but buy into it. That's a negative belief. So they have to pay attention to the fact that that dialogue in their head is coming from the negative belief as well. It's one of the quote unquote tricks that negative beliefs have, is to convince you that there's nothing you can do, that it's an automatic function you just can't help. Therefore, they have to learn to identify even that language, even the voices in their head about how they can't do anything about it, as something coming from the negative belief.